They want you to be mad. They want to set you off. They want you to look for answers, closure, and payback. However, what if I told you that the worst thing you could do is nothing? Just don't argue. No outbursts, no fighting back. Just a plan. Keep quiet. Changes. Because the truth is that you don't have to deal with haters. They've grown too big. And the worst wounds? They get angry when they see someone they tried to break get stronger, quieter, and impossible to hurt without them. You will learn 4 horrible ways to hurt people who hate you without saying a word or moving an inch in this video. Each one comes from Stoic advice from the past and has been improved for a modern, cruel kind of peace. Silence, not a story, only power. Let's start. Way number 1. Outgrow them so much that you no longer recognize them. If someone hates you, the first and most damaging thing you can do is outgrow them so completely, so quietly, and so much that not even you can recognize the person they used to know. You can't be found by the people who built their identities around your limits when you change, not for revenge or praise, but because you have to. Haters don't care a lot about what you look like. They want you to be the way you used to be. The ones who react, the insecure you, the you who wanted to know more, that needed to be proven, that kept coming up to protect yourself. That story built their ego. It helped them stay in charge. Because people who hate you don't want you to grow. They want you to stay someone they can control and put in a box they made and named with their own personal views. You don't have to do anything, though, when you start to grow socially, mentally, or spiritually. What you've done is the sword. Your lack of attachment is the sword. And the last blow is your failure to participate. The big surprise is that growing up isn't loud. You don't have to block them on all platforms or make dramatic captions. That's not having power. That sounds like noise. Real growth needs surgery. It's inside. Not because you're angry, but because the talks no longer feed your mind. You start to avoid them. Not because you're trying to hide, but because you no longer feel like you have to explain your choices to people who don't understand the path you're on. Alexander the Great said, "If it is not right, do not do it." Don't say something if it's not true. That and living your life based on truth and alignment will start to bring you insight and push away chaos. You become exact. Stay calm, not sloppy. And that scares people who knew you when you were weaker. They can't stand how quiet it is, how sharp it is, the loss of touch. You know, the one who begged to be heard, who responded emotionally, and who stayed in cycles out of guilt. They want that person to come back. But that copy is gone. What about the new you? They are afraid of the person who thinks before they talk, who keeps the peace like a fortress, and who chooses solitude over attention. Because you now live on a different frequency, not just in a different place. As Seneca put it, he who has made a fair deal with poverty is rich. It's not just about money, though. It's also about connection. You're okay with leaving behind people, places, and things that used to define you. You're okay with the price of growth. That's what makes you strong. You know that not everyone gets a spot at the next level of your life. What do the people who hate you do with this new you? Nothing, because they can no longer touch you. If the person doesn't answer, they don't know how to insult them. They don't know how to beat someone who isn't paying attention. They have no idea how to trick someone who doesn't need anything from them. You are no longer sick. There's a certain kind of mental pain that comes from someone trying to anger you, and you don't see it because you're too far ahead. Because you're not being real. Not because you have a part to play, but because you've really left them behind. Not just physically, but also emotionally. You fixed the parts of yourself that used to keep coming back. The quiet that comes next is a language they weren't ready to learn. It's when they message someone and don't hear back. It's when someone talks about you and you don't clear the air. It's when they bait you in public and you don't even move. You've changed is one thing they say. They're right too. You've changed so much that you don't even know the person you used to be. Things that used to hurt you don't hurt as much now. You don't care about the people who used to have power over you. You've set up new things, new ways of doing things, brand new rules. I don't think they qualified. It's not always on purpose to grow apart from people, but it has to happen when your mission is greater than your pain. You stop trying to heal in places where the wound keeps getting bigger. Don't try to make peace with people who thrive on fighting. Also, you should stop watering plants that are already dead. You let things die in a respectful, quiet way that lasts forever. He said, "No one is free who is not in charge of himself." That's what this growth is all about. A mastery, not over other people, but over yourself. More than your feelings, over what sets you off, over the need to defend, explain, or show. That's what makes them shake. That's what makes it hurt. They used to be able to guess what you would do before. Now, you're not reliable. They used to know how to say things to make you angry. Now, there isn't a single crack. They thought they were important to your story before. Now, they are written down, so there is no dramatic ending, last talk, or announcement. Just left. What hurts the most? They find out too late that you will not be coming back. The door was not left open. It wasn't you who took room. You changed. And other people can't see the new you while they're still seeing the old you. You are no longer available, not because you want to be, but because you have to. You're too old for the talks they want to have with you now. You can't handle the drama they want to drag you into. You no longer recognize the version of them they want you to talk to. They live in a story you stopped reading. They honor a fight you outgrew. People whisper your name in places you'll never go back to. Since your payback wasn't a post, the speech wasn't a comeback. It didn't show them they were wrong. Peace was your reward. You got back at them by changing into someone who doesn't need them. You got back at them by walking away so hard that you can't even remember who they were to you. Right now, they have to sit back and watch, quietly hurting from their anger because they know their hate didn't hurt you. In fact, it stopped being important when you chose to grow. The Stoics knew how to get even in that way. Not for feelings, not quick to act, but planned, internal, and life-changing. There's no need to do anything. You just get up, and that will always haunt them. Way number 2, let your success haunt them in silence. Words don't cost much. It's cheaper to hate. But progress? That costs a lot and requires focus. Their minds can't hide that kind of pain. Because it lasts. It's clear in your energy, your face, and the way you stand. There's nothing you need to say. They can feel it. It hurts too. If you want to get better, be happy being thought foolish and stupid, Epictetus said. Why? Because progress often looks like being quiet, like being forgotten. But while they're making fakes, you're building. You're winning while they're busy being mean. People will realize they wasted their time trying to bring you down when your life starts to shine with clarity, power, and freedom. During that time, you were building a life that they now envy. Don't fight. Don't say anything. Just become impossible to deny. Let your success show them something they didn't ask for. It should remind them of all the things they didn't want to become. Now that you've won, every time they see you, they remember how little their hate meant. Now for the truth that will really hurt those who hate you. Your success shows how lazy they are. It shines a light on everything they didn't do with every step forward, every quiet milestone, and every hour of work that isn't seen. Their ease, their staying put, why they did it. They didn't know you were going to rise. You just did. That's the worst part. They thought you would be broken at the end of the story. They thought you would break down, to keep being angry, to destroy oneself when under stress. They were sure that what they said, how they rejected you, how they lied to you, and how they kept quiet would freeze you. You used all of it as fuel instead. They were writing stories about who you used to be, but you were writing a new story about your whole future. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best way to get back at someone who hurt you is to be unlike them." They aren't getting louder than your anger, it's getting stronger. Not out of pride, not in ego, when it hits, in freedom, in honor of oneself. People who used to treat you badly are pushed into a new kind of silence when you start to show results, when your growth is clear and can't be denied. One that lost, because they know now that they were too harsh on the wrong person. It's even worse because you never even tried to show them they were wrong. You stopped spending time with them. It took everything you had to be disciplined, focused, and in control of yourself. You got up early. You stayed the same. They laughed while you worked. They spoke badly about you, but you stayed humble. They are now trying to figure out how it all happened without them noticing that you made something real and solid. You got too big to hurt, too focused to get off track, too calm to boss around. It hurts more than any answer you could have given when you win without ever addressing their hate. They know you turned every bit of pain into fuel. When your name comes up in places they didn't think you'd go, they feel it. When people praise your discipline, your attitude, or your change, they can feel it. They feel it when someone else tells them about your success instead of you, since you didn't have to tell them yourself. You let it come. The poor person is not the one who has too little, but the one who wants more, said Seneca. Really think about that. They wanted you to fail and fall because they thought it would be fun to see you fail. But you were happy to be unnoticeable. You weren't out for blood. You were looking for a reason. Goal wins every time in the long run. The sound of great success is quiet. It doesn't need to be proven. It does not have to scream. It is what it is. And you become dangerous when you match that energy, when you move like you don't need attention to feel strong. As a hater finds it hard to understand someone who doesn't need to be seen but can't be ignored. It hurts now every time they hear about you. It hurts their sense of being better every time they see your name, whether it's online, in a chat, or on a screen. Because the person they laughed at, ignored, or thought was beneath them is no longer recognized. They are also forced to sit in the awkward silence of not having done enough. That's why you don't need to answer. Let your attention, presence, consistency, and wisdom be the answer. That's enough. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to drop quotes or show off your work. Just show up. Give the energy a chance to work its magic. Your growth will tell everyone everything you never had to say. They were hoping that your story would end where they left it. You kept writing, though. The most strong parts are the ones that came after, but they don't get to be a part of them. The ones that are full of breakthroughs, clarity, and a sense of purpose. Those where you can find peace without having to say sorry. They are the ones that don't bother you anymore because you're not there mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. Now you've moved on. How about that win? That power? It keeps coming back to haunt them because you didn't fight back. You didn't talk to them about it. You didn't follow their rules. You just made in peace, by yourself, in secret. They can't get into your life because you made it. You made them think something they can't change. They didn't see the new version of you that you made. Now they only serve as the lesson in your story. What drove them? The reason you looked further. When discipline is used, the proof that hate doesn't work is no longer important. So keep going up, keep writing. Do the work that they'll never be brave enough to start. For each time you show up and win with no work on your part, you remind them of how little power they used to have. Way number 3, leave them starving with your silence. You need to pay attention to people who hate you. They get by on it. It boosts their pride, shows that they are important, and makes them feel powerful. As soon as you take it away, they go hungry. When you don't answer, explain, or even pay attention, they can tell. They can't stand the empty space. They do their best. Better. A lot more hostile. But all they get is silence. You have power over your mind, not over outside events, Marcus Aurelius said. Know this, and you will be strong. Yes, it's there, the old plan. When you refuse to let your enemies into your mind, you hurt them the most. You keep them from having what they want most, a place in your world. They want to make you angry. They want to live in your head for free. But you don't even seem to notice that they're there. You don't answer. You don't post again. You don't tell the lies to stop. You just keep living. With peace, with power. And that quiet, it screams. They don't feel rejected right now. It's something worse, not being important. And you can't get back from that. They are alone and can only talk to themselves, chanting insults over and over again in the hopes that you'll flinch. You've been quiet, though. You've turned inward. You've started putting your peace ahead of the false idea of justice. And that quiet breaks them down, because being quiet doesn't tell them what to do. They don't know if you're mad, hurt, or not touched at all. This doubt is very hot. So you see, some people like chaos. They don't want your anger, they want your attention. Their goal is to get you to fight, explain, and try to understand. You're not building, healing, or making things right now because you're fighting, and they want you to be right there, in the mud, not able to come up with a reply, but no sound. Being quiet is spiritual battle. When someone irritates you, it is your own response that is to blame, Epictetus said. And when you understand that they have nothing to do with your peace, you stop giving them control over your feelings. You stop trying to explain yourself to people who are determined to get it wrong. When you don't say anything, your quiet does more damage than anything you say. Let them write. Allow them to talk. Allow them to trick you. You don't answer. You get higher. They will not understand why you are so cool. They won't be able to figure out why their tricks no longer work. Since you turned off your phone, you're feeling better again. You stopped giving food to a beast that got stronger when you saw it coming. Now, it needs to eat. They throw rocks at your name in the hopes that you'll run away. However, they only get space. You don't just leave. You're gone. How they feel, in the mind, having energy. They are no longer able to find your anger. They have no tool without it. It was Seneca who said, "He who does not stop a wrong when he can is just as guilty as the wrongdoer." But the Stoics made it clear. You owe yourself first, not to fight, not to fix every mistake, but to keep your center, to keep the kingdom of your mind safe. Because sometimes staying quiet isn't just a way to stay alive. It's a plan. The next thing that happens is both beautiful and horrible. They start to eat themselves when they don't have your responses to feed them. Their story starts to fall apart when the main character, you, stops following along. They thought whispers would hurt you, but the fact that you didn't answer is louder than their noise. Now they have to sit alone in the quiet and listen to the sound of their own worries. they might act like they don't care. In reality, though, they can't stand your silence, because it tells them the one thing they don't want to hear. You no longer think about them. Do not look at their picture too much. You don't really care about what they do. You don't daydream about getting even. You're too busy being too busy to work on yourself, too busy with what really matters to even think about the poison they wanted you to drink. This is where things change. Silence is no longer a strategy. It turns into a way of life, a stronger frequency. You become someone who doesn't waste time on things that aren't important, who doesn't let weak minds rent space in a strong spirit, who doesn't let people who try to upset them take over their emotions. You are now a king. You just walk into places without saying anything. News about you doesn't bother you. You let the stress go by like wind through trees, because you now know the old truth. Ignoring someone who loves attention is the worst thing that can happen to them. People will say you're cocky. They'll call you weak for not fighting back. It will be said that you are hiding the truth. But what they really feel is that you're not there, and the noise is louder than any argument. You don't talk to them because you no longer speak their language. The language of fights, of being angry, to have to be right. Now you speak with a sense of space, calm, and lift. And that is something new to them, and very scary. People will always try to include you in their trouble. But you can only win in a storm if you go through it. Turn down. Don't move your eyes. Stay still. Let them go around and around while you build in quiet. Also, their own noise will fall apart over time, because what's left when you don't pay attention, defend yourself, or give energy? Only them. Going over with a ghost, not having any fuel to start a fire. So let your quiet make them not expect much. Let it burn away their right to be right. Let it crush their sense of how important they are. Most importantly, let it free you, because being quiet doesn't mean you're weak. It means have power, and having power is very important. Way number 4, return as a new force they can't handle. Get rid of. Do your work in the dark. Heal by yourself. Get to the next level in peace. Then come back, completely changed. That is more than just beautiful. It is war on a strategic level. Personal development is very violent on a spiritual level. People who have chosen to stay the same are stirred up when you go back into the world after working on your health, mind, habits, or vision. It makes them think of their safety, how lazy they were, how angry they were, and the person they thought they hurt now stands in front of them. They can't recognize or touch him, and he is at peace. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it, Seneca said. Also, the people who hated you have lost time by being angry while you've changed. You walk with a different kind of peace now, not pride, but truth. Not ego, but silence. That's all that breaks them. Since you didn't need to get even, there was no need for theater. You just changed into the person who doesn't react, chase, or explain. You changed into the type of person who only sees their old self when they look in the mirror. That's what kills them. They had no idea you were playing a game that you won. They wanted you to stay hurt as an old person. They thought you would keep questioning, breaking, reacting, and saying sorry. They played on your low self-worth, because that made them feel better about themselves. But when you took a step back, not to run away but to rebuild, you broke their fantasy. You don't need to let people know when you're coming back. You just go into rooms in a different way. You talk less than you listen. Your balance is stable. You have fewer words, but they mean more. Your eyes look like they say, I've been through fire and I didn't just survive. I made myself again. And that kind of presence, it can't be explained. You can feel it. When you've been doing deep work on yourself, people can tell. They feel something different, but they don't know what it is. You're not as easy to get in touch with as you used to be. No longer are you reacting. People who used to feed off of your fears don't get an explanation, an apology, or a reason from you. There are no longer any buttons that work when they try to press the old ones. That makes them crazy. Because people have to be alone when they can't reach you to talk. What they find out is that the weak version of you that they hated wasn't weak, it was becoming. You were doing something. Now, you've made it. Marcus Aurelius said, "What stops action moves action forward. What gets in the way turns into the way." According to the Stoics, problems should be seen as fuel. You did that too. Each insult they said to you built your wall stronger. Every lie is a lesson. For every loss, there's a spark. They didn't make you grow less, they made you grow more. But now you're so much faster than them that they can't even act like they're ahead of you. I think their opinion is silly. It's clear that they are jealous. Worst of all, their presence doesn't seem to matter, because you are now the very thing they fear most: control. Being able to build a life on ideals instead of validation gives you that cold, quiet, untouchable energy. You don't need the attention. You shine. They can't stand it. They'll put you to the test. Check for cracks. Check to see if the new you is just a show. They won't find anything, though. You've been in the dark for too long to be scared of ghosts. The triggers are better now. You're too old for games now. You found meaning in the loneliness they made fun of. Now that they see you, they don't understand. People don't get how you changed into this person without screaming for attention. But here's the paradox. The most powerful changes happen when no one is around. Not in front of everyone else, but in the depths of your own study. And your silence, it wasn't being weak. It was a place where you could learn. People now pay attention when you talk. People notice when you move. You don't rush into rooms. You get there. Don't brag about it. The results speak louder than any insult can. You walk like you've been through a storm and come out of it better, smarter, and colder. And the people who used to hate you, they can't get out of the same spot and are talking to the ghost of someone who doesn't exist. They hit each other with the same blows, say the same lines, and act out the same scenes over and over, but nothing works. Since you've changed the goal. Plus, they can't hit anything. They can't see. You didn't just come back. You went up, and they weren't ready for that kind of treatment. As long as they didn't lose you to someone else. There wasn't a big blast that killed you. They lost you because you changed. Now they can only watch. Watch as you go through life without them. Watch as you get bigger without their help. See how bright you are without having to say their name. You changed into the type of person who moves around without a reason, which is the scariest thing for people who have always needed to be in charge. Come back, but don't get even. You've passed hiding, so come back. You need to come back because you've grown too strong to stay hidden. And when they see you again, that one harsh truth should come back to them. You were putting down roots when they thought they buried you. Now you're back, but not to settle scores. You're back to live so high above the chaos that your silence sounds like thunder. They can't handle that much force. In fact, that's who you were meant to be. The Stoics never said to get even. They taught how to master, more than your feelings. Get over your pride, on your mind. When you do that, your haters hurt themselves trying to fight someone who doesn't exist. How interesting is that? There's nothing you need to do. Your silence turns into a storm. The sound of your quiet shakes the earth. Their sentence is your peace. And how did you change? That turns into something they can't look away from. Let them be mean. Allow them to talk. You keep growing, keep going up, keep going with that steady stillness that only people who know themselves can have. Because the best way to get back at them is to change into someone they can never reach. Because sometimes the bravest win is the one that is quiet.